Hey, we're going to continue our talk from the last time about Big Ideas 2023, which is the document that I would really want every single person to actually review, especially by students. This is a document that is produced by Ark Invest. They actually do care about investment more than anything, but this document does, highlight a lot of disruptive technologies that are going to change the way we do things in general. Especially, this gives you a very good vision, especially putting some numbers in as far as how each technology is going to intertwine and produce value in terms of GDP and all of that. And now we're going to continue with artificial intelligence. I think the last time we talked about technological convergence, we're going to talk about AI, and we're just going to continue, as long as I can talk and then able to record without getting disturbed, we'll go ahead and do that. Now, AI, of course, is huge, right? I mean, they use the word neural networks before, and one of the key things that we are living in a knowledge age, and we want a technology that can actually do knowledge work for us or assist knowledge workers. I mean, coding, medicine, anything you talk about, it is at the end of the day, we are all knowledge workers. Manual labor, digging a trench or, doing even, for example, agriculture right now is completely different. As a matter of fact, AI has really completely moved the way that we do artificial agriculture right now. Israel is one of the prime examples of using artificial intelligence to create greenery in a desert. So clearly, things have changed significantly as we have moved along. And it is showing real promise and real GDP growth because of AI. They're actually the came to flame is this, like, knowledge workers will have two times in terms of coding. So that's one thing that I've already talked before, or it's going to come in one of the videos. However, we're going to see that it is the year of the DALI and the Chat GPT, which is basically generative AI. One of the things that I did not realize, and again one of the things that I do this is because it's a learning experience for me. The AI training cost will decline to an annual rate of 70%. That is so huge. As a matter of fact, they claim that the GB3 level performance that took $4.6 million dollars in 2020 is going to cost $450,000 in 2022, and we expect to decline to continue by 70% of rate by 2030. And this is connected with the next generation cloud that we were talking about. And one of the ways that even our Microsoft Bing and Microsoft Edge is intertwined with the Chat GPT 4 version, because we have access to Chat GPT 3.5, which is GPT 3.5. Um, and one of the ways that she suggests is that the way that we do reinforcement learning by user integration itself, because the minute I click something, that becomes a reinforcement learning. So therefore the overall training input and training environment is going to change, and therefore once the training is better, we should have much faster, cheaper artificial intelligence modules. uh, AI should increase the productivity of knowledge workers by at least fourfold. I mean, it's so true. I mean, honestly, I integrated Slack, GPT-3 in my Slack, not the Chat GPT-3 version. Once that API comes in, I'm going to integrate that into my Slack as well. But by just the virtue of that, the developers are constantly interacting with it, marketing team, legal team, compliance team. It has improved the productivity of everyone in the whole company by at least one and a half times. And as these things improve, as we can get access to more specialized, because I'm looking at BioGPT, which is the chat GPT version specifically designed for life sciences, we're going to see that even overall interactability, overall quality of answers are going to improve in specific domain areas, and that is going to change the way we do, work, and especially knowledge work, and therefore knowledge work is going to be very different. AI could improve global labor productivity by $200 trillion. This is true, potentially. I mean, eventually, I think this is fairly, aggressive for 2030. But let's say if she used the word 2040, yes, I would get that. And this will dwarf the $32 trillion in total knowledge worker salaries. This is both interesting to know and scary to know, right? Because I'm going to be honest with you, I'm really thinking of decreasing my marketing team because I can get better answers from ChatGPT. So it is both a big problem and for knowledge workers, and a big opportunity. We will not through this, of course. We're going to make some and just leave it in the comment if you want me to, how to do prompt engineering, or especially for life sciences, I can make a video on that, so you guys can understand that how I use ChatGPT through better prompt engineering. But I truly agree. I mean, if you are in this game, just by adding this one piece of AI into my workflow, it has improved my whole team's efficiency by 1.5 times now. And as systems grow better and better, and clearly GPT-3 was what, 2020. GPT 3.5 or Chat GPT is 2 years later. Not to mention DALI, Stable Diffusion, etc. We are going to see a significant change the way we work. Yep, 100% true. 2022 was the year of generative AI. They don't give me an example of Chat GPT because it seems everywhere in the system anyways. But DALI 2 and Stable Diffusion 2.0 are great for image generation, and of course, Meta Maker Video is actually one of the ways that you can generate even videos through artificial intelligence. Mind-boggling to see these things in action, and definitely generative AI has taken the center stage, which we not which we didn't think before. AI is increasing productivity of knowledge workers. I talked about it, but here's the very amazing example: negative 55% time by just using what, GitHub Copilot. GitHub Copilot is basically one of the ways that when you are typing through, it's like an autocomplete for your Gmail. I know most of my audience is not developers, but I have Visual Studio installed and I have this Copilot, and then there's actually a new extension to add Chat GPT directly into Visual Studio. I do a little bit of coding in Python as well, but it's just mind boggling that when you're starting to write, it just auto completes your code, and it gets from Stack Overflow, GitLab, etc. So it's just fascinating that how fast it is. Not to mention, if you want to, I find a code in, let's say, JSON or TypeScript or something, and if I want to convert it into Dart or Flutter, I just send it to ChatGPT, and it just translates that code into a different language for me. It's just mind-boggling that how improved that efficiency has been, and people like me who are hobbyist coders, I would say, are able to take care of this in a much better way as well. um, so the cost, generative images models that we used to do, the currently, for a human, the cost is $150 to create, and it takes 5 hours for a human to create such an image. And for generative AI, the cost is zero point zero 0.08 and then less than a minute. And that's so true. I mean, I haven't implemented DALI API and currently in my Slack, but I'm planning to do so soon, because one of these images, like when the video editor does, I want them to create custom images for my video editing rather than getting you know a stack images from anywhere else. And the minute it does that, I mean, the only reason I'm able to afford it because I'm not Disney or anyone else, which is amazing, right? I mean, I'm thinking of creating more better work because I have access to this, which I never had. So mind-boggling of how these productivity is going to change in terms of that. This is again, I did not realize that this is possible, but apparently, according to them, it's going to continue to plummet the training. I still don't. I still don't think that this is going to plummet this much because but this is interesting to see because what it is that what they say is that it was 4.6 million to basically do the GPT-3 level performance. According to Ark forecast, which was last year in 2020, it will be $740,000, but apparently it is only $450,000 now. So we can see that their estimate was low, was actually not good. Apparently by 2023, you're looking at GP3 level performance to train that model would actually be only $30. Let me repeat that: 30. Insane that we can think about. I did talk about how the next generation cloud is going to change things. I have another video that is going to come up, or maybe it's already out. I forget when the recording. My team is going to push out the recordings on YouTube. Anyways, I do talk about the software, hardware, and again, all the three aspects in terms of hardware, in terms of software, labeling softwares, training softwares, deployment softwares, and I talk about hardware as well, how it is changing completely. it is insane. I think this is fairly aggressive. I doubted that this is true, but it is their projection, and maybe they're right. But no doubt the cost is falling, but by how much is again, I mean, this is still doable, right? I mean, this was only doable by multi-million dollar companies. These are doable by startups, because I raise funds for startups, million, 2 million here and there, from different VCs and everything. And if they're spending 450K on training something, it's just not I mean, this is truly available and possible. So I'm not surprised that the cost is falling, but I am surprised that it's going to cost fall to $30. But well, this is so true. I mean, so I can tell you that. So AI hardware and software costs should continue to decline by 70%. One of the videos I did, that how microprocessors are changing, because one of the ways that microprocessors are built are being used. AI is being used to create new microprocessors, and then the system on a chip, with the ARM based, and all of that. We're seeing both efficiency gain and energy usage of those battery chip microchips, and more importantly, the design in itself has gone from creating CPU and GPU, and now basically literally there are sorry about the technical difficulty. So I don't know, I'm going to repeat something. So software definitely is getting cheaper. I mean, you will not believe the amount of all three aspects of software. Make sure that you do listen to that video lecture, because I break it down exactly, that how you have labeling, deployment, and development of artificial intelligence model. The cost is significantly getting lower, and more open source is available. As far as the hardware is concerned, with the advent of TPU, which is tensor processing unit, and then Amazon, I think it's called Gatron chips or Gatron chips, something like that. They are actually significantly improving the way AIs can be done. Not to mention, artificial intelligence is done much better on my cell phone as well, as compared to this current iPad is M1. They have an AI engine. It's just fascinating, and clearly this is going to continue to decline. No doubt about that. They are actually looking at a cost difference from 10,000 to 1 cent. So there's a cumulative change that we're going to see in terms of the hardware cost. Um, and again, it may be a little aggressive. They tend to be a little aggressive, as I told you before, in their assessments. But at the end of the day, training costs using neural networks is going to significantly come down as well, as more and more training is gonna as more and more. um, so why would the training cost come down? So three reasons. Number one, um, there's one thing called transfer learning. So if I did all the labeling of buses, I can take that labeling and put it into a new model and say, okay, at least the bus is done, now just do the fire hydrants. Same thing, if I'm doing the bleed in the brain, I can use retransform the model for bleeding in the liver. So that's transfer learning. Number two thing is that while we are doing these software operating systems, there's a thing called reinforcement learning. And for example, Bing is doing it, right? So Bing is going to integrate ChatGPT, and every time I actually click yes or no, or actually appreciate or copy that, they know that, hey, I appreciated that particular response, and therefore this response is better. So there's a reinforcement learning element going into it. And then lastly, we're seeing these cumulative data sets that are available more and more. So therefore, once you have this, histopathology slides in lung versus, dermatology, there's this baseline understanding that is going on. And that's what humans are. Like, what we learn that way, evolutionary speaking, 100 millennia, we learn through evolution. That's human intelligence. That's built in through into our genetics, but that's exactly what AI is going through, because the more and more this happens, we're going to come to a level of efficiency of human brain, because human brain technically is much more efficient in doing intelligence. So that's one of the new frontiers that we're going to see, that more and more of this is going to be possible, because the cost is actually declining significantly. But it creates a fantastic business opportunity. As a matter of fact, I've been trying to teach my students that If you're going to go into something, you need to go into a business of training data. Acquiring and training data, especially healthcare data, is a big problem, and this is going to be an explosive demand for this. And uh, in healthcare, of course, look, in healthcare, there's a big issue. I mean, the physicians, especially board certified physicians, do not really have time to sit and do this. There are ways around it. We still, like, for example, if I'm currently doing one project, we have, licensed physicians who are actually labeling it, but nobody else does it. I just feel like it's unethical to do it, but it just costs a lot more. There are companies after companies in India, Philippines, that their job is to create bound boxes and organelle shapes, etc., to do labeling. So this is going to be a massive opportunity for any one of you who are thinking of creating a new company, because everyone will demand, new data, and especially existing data. We're going to come to the proprietary data in a minute. Um, so we're going to see that the cost of actually billion, because Chat GPT is what, $4.6 million at 56 times the parameters at 10,000 tokens. We're going to see that the cost is going to be so low that we're going to have much better labeled data that is available, and more importantly, we're going to have that data labeled much cheaply as well. This is where I was talking about the proprietary data. So proprietary data is actually creates a moat. A moat is basically a business sort of advantage. The business advantage is because I am the only one who has the data from, South Asian community, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, for CT brain. Now, if you want to learn something about that, then great, you need to come to me. That's a business moat. Even though you have the data from, Hispanic community or American community or European descents or, Arab community, whatever. But at the end of the day, there is a level of proprietary data that is going to create moats, and that is going to be very, very important. That's where Tesla also comes in, because what they have is that proprietary data generation. There are, I don't know, a million cars on the road or a billion cars on the road, I forget, whatever. Let's just call it a million cars on the road, constantly generating data for them. That actually feeds into their AI model, that feeds into the better products, and then that feeds into a more customer, and then goes the cycle. So therefore, this proprietary data is going to be one of the major areas that you're going to see growth in, specifically those with data. And I do call it, people call it inequity in terms of health inequity. Um, I call it basically knowledge inequity. And unfortunately, companies with massive amounts of data will create massive amounts of growth, massive amounts of progress for themselves. And unfortunately, this is going to bring a significant amount of inequity in the world as well. It is what it is, but I just want you to make sure that you do understand that this proprietary data thing is going to be one of those things that's going to change the way we see the companies. And honestly, when we are looking as an investor, when I have my investor hat on, I really do look for, no longer I look for intellectual property is garbage. You can change a little bit and then create another intellectual property that lasts for what, 18 years. Actually, what I look for is mainly proprietary data and trademarks, because if the company has a good trademark and enough subscriber and all of that, that is more important to me, and proprietary data is more important to me when I am making investment decisions, especially in venture capital funds, etc. Wow, yeah, coding productivity. I think we already talked about this, because by 2030, apparently. So this is 2022. There's 2.5x performance gain. According to this, there's going to be a 10x performance gains. Um, Maybe so, and I do not disagree. I mean, there's this tenfold increase by 2023, possibly, because definitely so. You have, if you really look at, how the coders have changed the way they function, it does make a huge, huge, huge difference. And I think I've shown an example before in one of my videos, that somebody asked ChatGPT to build them a to-do list app, and it just gave them the code and the minute by minute instructions, etc., to build a to-do list app. We will see this level of productivity going forward, especially if it is built into search engines like Bing, which gives the latest and the greatest answer, while they're actually going, the bots, the search engine bots are collecting all the information through the general areas. Um, Chatbots again. So I don't remember. I mean, do you remember the first time you heard of Amazon Echo? I mean, I really never thought Amazon Echo would be such an important device of voice assistant, right? At least that was my thought. And again, now without the three different assistants, I have all three in the house just for my testing purposes. But I constantly use my Google-based assistant, and of course, I use the Apple's assistant as well. I don't want to say it out loud, so it's gonna probably jump into your houses as well. Similarly, exactly the same way, these chatbots are going to integrate into these voice assistants, and it's going to be an even better phenomenon to actually get information from them. I'm probably nearly 100% sure that now with the chat gpt and Bing, Microsoft is going to launch at least an application or a voice assistant of their own, because you can actually properly have a conversation with these kind of chatbots. Even from as better than chat gpt is actually the lambdas version of Google, because they literally do a human like interaction in terms of voice analysis. You can literally have a conversation. So uh, again, it's all about the cost, right? It's not that expensive. It's very expensive at least. Google search processing 8.5 billion searches per day, and if they're going to go through that, you need to decrease the per cost of per query. And as soon as that cost actually goes down from this much to this, then you can actually make it available easily for the mass production of people. But again, the cost is going down. AI should increase knowledge workers' productivity dramatically. We have talked about this before, the bear case, base case, and bull case, and they go about $14 trillion of productivity that is going to bring in terms of just AI. I'm going to stop here. In the next lecture, we're going to talk about digital consumers. They actually, the digital consumer is one portion, and then we're going to cover all of this three into one portion. Thank you. Have a nice day.